on.
Now you're good. Great. So good evening, everyone. I'm Anna Stiefkin. I'm the Vice Chair of the Resiliency Board. Welcome to our meeting this evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. I think it's right at 6 o'clock. And so let's do a roll call. I'm just going to have you go and say your names around the row.
Harold Robbins here.
Linda Topoleski.
John Rumbold.
Grace Robb.
Eric Miller.
Greg Ward.
Justin Mess.
Lynn Lindley.
Anna Stiefkin.
Jeff Sigler.
All right, so we definitely have a quorum this evening, correct?
Yeah, and check out, because Phil was there. There he is.
So Phil, hi. So Phil, you're there.
You may need to, is he, yeah, okay. And Chet.
And Chet.
Chet, we're just promoting you to a panelist, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And you have now arrived.
Phil, we're judging your reading materials.
Great. So we have Phil and Chet also joining us.
The whole.
So it looks like we have everyone. So thank you for being here this evening. So the first thing I want to do is go through the meeting minutes, and I already have a comment on the meeting minutes. Does anyone else have a comment on the meeting minutes? Okay, so my comment on the meeting minutes is that as a part of the Economic and Business District Committee presentation, there was a lot of information conveyed, and it was more than one sentence. We also came up with a policy recommendation that isn't reflected in the minutes. So does anyone remember the ins and outs of what we decided for that policy recommendation? Because we had said that we took a vote that we would support moving forward, but I don't exactly remember the language. Does anyone remember exactly what we decided so that we could have it?
The design committee presentation? Yeah, I think we held off on.
So we didn't vote.
Right, and that's part of our report tonight.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then I stand corrected. I just remembered that it seemed more meaty than just one sentence. I felt like we needed more information about what was conveyed because they gave a full presentation about
Yeah.
a lot of ideas that they had. So that would be my recommendation, is that at least one sentence be added of content from last week, just to reflect the meatiness and the importance of that conversation, even though we didn't have it delivered to us after, and we didn't create a policy recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could supply that because it was a lot packed in.
It was a lot.
Yeah, give it to
Maybe
Greg.
just a high level
Who
of,
does that go to then?
yeah, how do we
Send it us straight.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So with that, are there any other changes or adjustments to the minutes from last time? Anyone? Okay, so then can I have a motion that we pass the minutes from last month? Motion?
Move to pass minutes from last
Great.
month.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please record me as abstaining since I wasn't there.
Okay, thank you, Chet. All right, so moving along, we're gonna go to citizens' comments, making sure I'm looking at the right one, January 22nd. Okay, so looking at any citizen comments for this evening. Do we have anyone online?
Nope.
And no one is in the room, so we're gonna continue on. Commission liaison report.
Let's see, since we've last met, I think wrapping up December, the year end, there was a lot of budget, going through the budget and finalizing that, which we were successfully able to do. Some of the things in there that were relevant, we found some extra money that we were able to put towards sidewalks and continue to try to think strategically about how we can do better in terms of alternate transportation. So we did do that, although I know that we're not satisfied yet with where things are there, especially in terms of, at least that's my opinion, and I think reflective of some of the other commissioners, and want to continue to push the capital improvements budget towards, again, more like less road improvement and more walkability, bikeability. So we'll get to that later in the year, but that's certainly relevant. We continue to try to figure out, there's a lot of debate back and forth about trying to electrify the police vehicles, and so it's something that is on the agenda that we want to do, but so far what we've kind of heard is that the technology just isn't really there yet to make it effective. The Chief Haberman has done a lot of research on it, just saying that we're not quite there yet. It doesn't make sense just yet, so it's hopefully something that we can do in the near future. Last week's commission meeting was really just approving contracts for the year, things like water, sewer, et cetera, engineering, and nothing really too relevant there. And then this year we are going to update zoning, the entire zoning ordinance. So that's a big one that'll have, that'll definitely bring this advisory board into play. So that speaking with Ian, I think that that's probably something we're gonna, it'll probably be more towards late spring, early summer that gets started, but that's a big lift. That's gonna have a huge impact on kind of everything, but so that'll be something that I think that we'll wanna be very involved in. That sums it up.
Questions or comments? Thank you.
Yep.
Moving along, the Economic and Business District Committee. Linda?
My
Gabrielle's
turn,
gonna
my
report.
turn this time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's three of us on the subcommittee, so we met once during the last month. Separately, we're also contributing in other ways, so Linda is serving on our partnership board. I'll be joining our Activate Uptown later this week. So from our subcommittee meeting, we discussed the presentation from last month. I think most of you have seen it or seen the recording from the partnership. So there was a proposal for 4 items in that presentation. So we discussed them in detail in our subcommittee, and we got more information from Linda on partnership, what partnership is doing. So 2 of the 4 parts will be led by partnership, so they want to develop them more. So that's the signage and then design recommendations, design guideline recommendations. And then that leaves 2 other parts, 2 out of 4. One is vacancy ordinance, and the other one is retail on first floors. So we discussed it in our group, and we want to tackle them one at a time. So instead of going big with all 4 at the same time, we want to start small and try to make some progress, try to make some changes, make some improvements. So we want to start with vacancy ordinance and try to move forward, and wanted to ask you, Jeff, on your recommendation, how to proceed. Is that something of interest for the commission, for you? If we want to partner together and draft it together, or just seek your recommendation how to proceed for vacancy specifically?
Yeah, let's talk further about the drafting, but as far as I think me personally, that is something I am quite passionate about. I think vacancy is somewhat unforgivable. I mean, the private sector, we as a municipality have put a lot of money into, you know, the streetscape renovation and to making Uptown look as nice as possible. And the whole idea being is to, you know, incentivize the private sector to do their part. So having property sit empty or not properly maintained is a great frustration, and I think costs the taxpayers a lot of money. So I would like to, I'm absolutely on board with trying to get some vacant property legislation. So yeah, happy to discuss and I've have some examples from other communities that we can
Oh, that's
look at.
perfect. Yeah,
So happy
yeah.
to work
'Cause
together.
we looked at some examples in partnership, brought some examples as well.
Wonderful.
Because that's, how should I say? It's been out there for a long time. It's the vacancy ordinance in other communities, and we're a little bit behind.
Yes, I think so. So I think that there's also the appetite. I believe that there are some other commissioners that are pretty supportive. So I think it's something that we can get done.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, so we'll work with you. So those are recommendations from partnership, but I think it'll require some more work from us. So we'll ask for your feedback on how to proceed there. Yeah, and for the group, the idea for us is we really want to start small, just one item at a time, and make progress, because when we look at 4 of them together, some of them are more, should I say, debatable than others, and we want to start with this one and make progress.
And I think I believe there's a lot of support for all of the different items. So I certainly appreciate those and working their way through the channels to get passed and put into all. Hopefully, but I'm pretty optimistic that all those things can be a part.
Perfect. All right, I think that's it from us. Did I miss anything? No.
Great, thank you. Let's move along to the Historic Preservation Committee update.
Okay, we did not actually meet this past month, but we have been making progress on implementing the changes to the website that the board approved at our last meeting. In addition, we did have an interesting request for comment on actually a project that we commented on back in 2020. This is a building on Beverly Road, 230 Beverly Road, where they originally had proposed putting antennas, telecommunication antennas on top of that building. At that time, we issued a comment to the Historic Preservation Board, or the State Historic Preservation Office, that this would be intrusive and would be an adverse impact. They apparently abandoned that project, and now they've come forward with appears to be a new project, really overall still the same thing, but now they are putting small antennas within enclosures, which actually is one of the recommendations we made back almost 5 years ago for them to do. So we're working, and with Grace's help, we've also gotten the historical societies gotten involved with commenting on this too, which is great. So this is kind of an interesting thing that you don't realize these things can come back even years later with someone trying to do something different. And in this case, our comments did have an impact. So we are still waiting to make our final comment until we hear back from them about what this enclosure will actually look like. I mean, we're hopeful that it will integrate into the existing structures. There is a penthouse on top of that building. And one of our recommendations was that they have a stealth fabric on the enclosure to match the existing structure that, on the top of the roof. So they haven't gotten back to us about that yet, but still, it's all in all very positive. I think positive things happening. So that's what we've been up to.
Anything else? Okay, so the Sustainability and Local Ecology Committee. So we did not have a chance to meet pending some outstanding issues associated with process. But I do see that there's an item here. So I think just for point of order, what's supposed to happen is that you would get in touch with the committee, make a presentation to the committee, and then we would come forward with you and make this presentation. I think that's the way that we're supposed to be doing this. But I would think that tonight, given that it's on the agenda and we have time for it, we can move forward. But I just wanted to make sure that you knew that that would be the way that I think we would appreciate to receive information so that we can process it as a committee and then bring it forward to the entire board, right?
Yeah, I guess this is more for the entire board. This is more of an introduction because my then idea was to then come to you in the off meeting hours and things like that and have a presentation.
Maybe it would be in like the general updates then, and then the sustainability committee can make a decision about how we proceed. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of an introduction for everyone tonight. But basically getting with the sustainability and local ecology committee is to really start kind of putting forth the fleet efficiency plan. I gave an update to the commission in the fall about some electrification things based off of the recommendations in the comprehensive plan. And we've kind of tailored that towards more a efficiency plan because electrification is obviously pigeonholing us into electrification, where efficiency is more what is the next best option. Most likely electrification, because that's kind of the big thing on the market right now. But in 10 years, we may see it could be compressed natural gas or hydrogen or something like that. So we're not pigeonholing ourselves into something. So efficiency plan is where we're kind of going at right now. Over the course of the fall and then into the new year, we have taken some steps with Duquesne Light, who is part of the Electrify Allegheny plan, which is a big Connect program, Eric Robb with Connect. And we've taken a look at assessing our fleet we have here and then moving forward with recommendations on just kind of the process. And I know with the recommendation number 6 in the comprehensive plan is the carbon neutrality. Part D and E kind of are tailored to that because I would say recommendation, can't remember exactly which one that is, but basically it says starting to continue to add charging stations for public use and also fleet use. And then recommendation that E in that one is to begin the fleet conversion. So those are pretty much the two that we were looking at there. A little bit on the part D was we currently have 2 charging stations, the one over in the Overlook lot and then the one here in the South Garage. We actually just got a grant approved. It was a multi-municipal grant that we got funded for the Academy lot. So there'll be some charging stations, I think up to 6 ports. So it could be 6 ports, yeah, 6 ports. So it'd be 3 stations, 3 dual ports. And that's up to 6. So we could do 2, we could do 4 or potentially 6. But that's also kind of something we're looking at with conditions or in coordination with a solar project we have going on. So we've looked at some municipal solar. We're still working through that. That's kind of a little bit further down the road. But that's a current update on those, on the charging stations. And then going to that fleet efficiency plan that I was mentioning, pretty much where I'm at right now is 4 parts of the plan, staff training and education, which pretty much goes to just like EV safety, basic maintenance for our maintenance staff, and also our electrician as well, because once those charging stations are installed, if something were to go wrong, we would need an electrician to kind of assess the situation first, and if it's a manufacturing issue or if it's a supplier issue. But having our electrician who is working for the municipality full-time, something that we would need to have him trained on. Next part is infrastructure development, going after charging stations, specifically fleet, obviously. So where we're gonna house those charging stations, whether it's public safety, public works, here, reassessing and rebuilding the south garage, maybe we'll have some fleet vehicles in there in the future. So assessing that infrastructure and then developing that. Third part is the actual acquisition process. So, the cost, and I'm currently working with some people on the Financial Management Board. Reached out to some of the folks there. They've been doing some total cost ownership, things like that for electric vehicles. But just kind of pointing at the vehicle acquisition process of how does a department head schedule vehicles to be replaced? How do they bring it about to the commission? Apples to apples comparison, or if there aren't apples to apples comparisons, can we at least get the difference in cost and things like that? And then finally, fleet management, which then goes back to kind of the maintenance of the vehicles and then the overall rotation. Because if there's some warranties on vehicles, we may need to shorten the rotation schedule, we may need to lengthen the rotation schedule, we may need to kind of alter it a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm at right now as like an introduction. I'll be getting with you and Chet to kind of really look for the input on the board, because the idea is to give the committee, the subcommittee, kind of some ideas on where we're at, look for feedback, get feedback from the board, and then obviously the board gives input on the plan then goes to the commission, and that's how that process works. But I think the input will be a little bit more in-depth on the resiliency side, just because we have a recommendation that calls out carbon neutrality, whereas the Financial Management Board is more looking at the finances of it. So that's pretty much where I'm at. It's just a slight introduction of saying, hey, this is gonna be on probably the agenda for the next maybe 2 months. And then looking, hopefully, I think March or April is when we're gonna finalize and give that plan to commission, and they can go in with the red pen and start checking things off. So, but just kind of, I guess soft launch is a good word for this. It's a soft launch into the Resiliency Board, so.
So thank you.
Yeah.
So obviously this has a lot to do with mobility. So are you also presenting this information to the mobility committee?
No, I don't think we intended, not necessarily to the mobility board. I think,
If, I'm just wondering where EV charging and fleet, cars, movement.
something we could look into, yeah. I mean, I'm most certainly open to going to them and asking if they had any input. But yeah, it's definitely something we could take into consideration.
Okay. And so Duquesne Light, so part of what it has here is that Duquesne Light was looking at doing sort of a microgrid or doing some other work. So is that incorporated in this project, or is this
The microgrid,
solar? Because electricity isn't necessarily carbon free unless it's made from solar or renewables or some other fuel source.
that's something that haven't really discussed with Duquesne Light, is that microgrid, just because it's a sort of like, I don't want to say sort of like burying the underground power lines, but it's a rather large undertaking for them. And it's something that they have a lot of staff time into is fleet management. And one of, like I mentioned before, one of the projects we have with the solar is having that solar directly tie into the charging station. So like we can have that basically balance it out equally. But that's something that with the infrastructure being, or charging stations being long-term assets and long-term investments, something that can be versatile to be changed into or tied into a microgrid. Because once the conduit's there, we'll be pulling off of transformers, but if any type of microgrid that we develop in the future could easily be tied into those charging stations. So, but I think as of right now, we haven't really discussed the microgrid option, so.
Okay. No, I was just curious because a charging station and having them is excellent. It's a great idea for the municipality. I'm just trying to make sure I figure out the link to how it fits in the committee. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that microgrid option will go right into infrastructure development, because once we're developing infrastructure currently, the microgrid may take 15, 20 years where we can install chargers in the next 6 months. So it's
Right.
definitely going to be, and that's what Commissioner Flynn mentioned at the update in the fall. He really kind of talked about overall trend goals. We don't need to necessarily pick and choose which vehicles need to be replaced, because in 10 years, those vehicles are going to change and they're going to need to be rotated out. So we're going to look at overall trend goals of what can we look at currently, because we assess the fleet. And there's nothing on the market right now that electric vehicles are plow capable. So plow kit, no, there's no plow capable vehicles. And we have a lot, obviously, as of right now, we we're just talking about the snow. A lot of vehicles that are out plowing. So those are kind of off the table as of right now. Technology may change. Technology may be accelerated in the next couple of years. So we may see that change. But that's where that plan is really going to assess that when these options become available, the process of acquiring those vehicles and rotating those vehicles is outlined in this plan. So pretty much it.
So we look forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so staff liaison report.
All right. I'm going to talk about two things tonight, and of course, we can open it up to any questions anyone might have after that. But the two things I wanted to focus on this evening, and Kirill alluded to it briefly in his remarks, is the Activate Uptown. And again, just as a very quick refresher, this is a subsequent study after the Vibrant Uptown project, which is complete. So this is looking at the community gathering nodes and spaces in the Uptown district. So we're working with Pashik Associates, and we are having our second steering committee meeting this Friday. Pashik is going to be showing us primarily focused on one scenario, but there are three scenarios. The committee will be looking at. The third scenario is the big idea picture. Looking at Clearview Common, Parse Way, the stair deck up to Washington Road, Clock Tower Plaza, and how they all interrelate. So I had a preview of the what the committee's going to see on Friday. I'm not going to say anything about it, but I think there's some real chewy stuff there and good information. And where they came up with the concepts is not the ether. It's from a survey that we did that was very robustly responded to by the community. We had a number of, I can't remember the number, it was well over 1,000 responses, and I think almost 2,000. And then we had a public session in the fall of last year where we also had a nice attendance, and people were able to interact with different concepts, kind of teasing things out. So we're going to have this committee meeting, get some ideas and feedback from the steering committee. We're going to be getting together with the commission at some point to give them a little taste of what's going on. There'll be another public engagement session, and then we're going to put a bow on this package and do a final presentation to the commission. Where it's ultimately going to take us is once we have an understanding of what the commission sees in this plan that they like, then staff will drill down into the more than likely grant writing and lots of other things to pull in resources. So there'll be many next steps. This is just the beginning. So that's happening. That steering committee meeting will be this Friday. We do have 2 members of the Resiliency Board that have stepped up to the plate. So thank you, Grace and Kirill. And then we have the design committee of the partnership that's in the mix, and folks from Move Lebo. And so we have a pretty nice cross section, I think. People that understand what we're trying to do and can add some good input. So any questions on that?
Yes. So I went to one of the community design charrettes or the input sessions, and I know you can't reveal what's being presented on Friday, but is it one of those 3 that were presented then?
It's an enhanced.
Okay. So, and I know that in looking at the strategic plan from 2016, which has a lot of relevance today, it's
There's intentional.
and what's going on with PRT naming Mount Lebanon as one of its transportation hubs. Is there coordination needed and valuable with PRT? And
PRT sits on the steering.
okay, and then do we
We
know?
have actually 3 members of PRT on that.
Oh, good. Okay. Do we know whether additional public funding that they'll be bringing to the hub status will be tied into this and help to finance whatever the end
That is our
design
hope.
might be? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and those are great questions. I mean, so, and what Linda's referring to is if you Google Pittsburgh Regional Transit new routes, I'll just leave it at that. It'll pull up a lot of information about what PRT is doing right now. One of the opportunities for Mount Lebanon is they are looking to earmark us as a transit hub, taking advantage of our light rail station uptown and additional buses. This is only a good thing. But that also means there's an opportunity for additional improvements to the station and everything surrounding it. So it would be my hope and it's my intention to talk to them in great earnest about being more than just a feedback partner on what we're looking to do. So that'll be a part of it. Any other questions? I'm pretty excited about what you guys are all gonna see. I hope you are too, and if you're not,
Yes.
well, you can tell Patrick that.
So when is that meeting?
That's this Friday.
And is there a public viewing of that, or is it a private meeting?
Well, again, this is the steering committee meeting, then there'll be a public session afterwards. And we're trying to figure out the appropriate time to update the commission, because we don't want to, you don't want to get too far down the road that somebody's like, we have 5 commissioners that are like, I don't like any of this, or we want to get their feedback as well before we get to a final, we close out the contract. But we will be closing the contract out by June 30th, because that's when our grant sunsets, so. But we will make that. We're well on our way. So, yeah, so there'll be, we'll find a way for the public, that public engagement session, we have lots of different ways to amplify that, so people will have the opportunity to weigh in on that. We may even do another survey. People say everybody keeps saying the Mount Lebanon survey weary, but every time we do a survey, we get a ton of people responding. The second thing I wanted to talk about is something that doesn't exist anymore. So as of 12/31/24, Mount Lebanon is no longer a designated main street. It's sad, so we can take a moment of silence for that. However, the good news is the partnership and the municipality are embarking on a redesignation. So we have been in the Main Street program. These are 5-year increments. We have been in the program as long as I've been here, and I've been here almost 20 years. So you can see where this is going. What we do is we go back into the program over and over again because there are new challenges, new things to do. So we're in the process, and I'm in the process right now of doing the closeout of that 5-year designation with the help of chairs on the partnership and others. So we're tying that up. We have a final session at the partnership board meeting in February. Well, there'll be a series of assessments with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Pennsylvania Downtown Center. And we will close the book on that designation. And we are opening a new cover to what we want to do next. So the partnership had a meeting early December where folks from the Pennsylvania Downtown Center came, members of the partnership board did a facilitated workshop, really just trying to get high level themes on what we want to do next. I don't want to give too much away, but and it's still in development. But that's going to be something that we're going to be working on pretty diligently over the next year. We do have a grant pending with DCD, but prior to our leaving the program, we did make application for a planning grant to plan for our next 5-year designation. And why do we do this? It's not just to have a little feather in our cap that we're designated Main Street. It actually brings in a lot of resources. So we were able to bring in a lot. We were able to use our Main Street designation to leverage grants, which went into the Vibrant Uptown project. We were able to get a grant for the public art installation, which is underway with Gobo lighting, the planning grant to do planning. But with the new, with Shapiro's new Main Street Matters program, there's a lot of additional resources in the program. It's real chunky. So some of those dollars can be used for administrative expenses, which if you don't know, the partnership really does not have staff. They don't. I have acted as their de facto executive director for more years than I care to mention. They have now brought in a part-time executive director and they have contract employees. But to get to the next level is going to require some additional resources. So the Main Street Matters program does provide administrative dollars for the first time since the Rendell administration. Plus it brings in lots of other dollars for rehabilitation projects, facade projects, planning projects, on and on and on. So it's not just about having the feather in the cap, it's also about bringing resources into the community. So we have to develop that 5-year plan.
Why was there a lapse? And has there been a lapse in the past or did it just roll over? It's always a lapse?
There's always a lapse, yeah. I mean, you can,
Is it detrimental to us to have a lapse?
absolutely not. No, no, it's quite common. Actually, they want you to have a lapse. You know, we've actually been too efficient sometimes, like we just roll right into it. And we've done that in the past. And I think that's fine. But this time we're kind of moving a little slower and for a couple reasons. One, you know,
It sounds like there's a new program.
you know, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. The program is pretty much the same. I mean, there are some additional resources in it, but the guidelines are the same guidelines as they've been for a long time. That being said, there's a different evaluation lens on it. And I think just also it's the responsibility the community is applying to do their homework. So why are we doing this? I mean, look in the mirror. What do we need this for? Most of the communities that do this are of great need. You know, they have vacancy rates well in excess of what we have. They have no board that such as we have. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, they're very hurting communities, and the Main Street program is their phoenix out of these ashes. So why would Mount Lebanon do this? And so we have to define the answer to that question. So I think that's part of it, and that's what we're doing. So we're really being very methodical. And should we not get the planning grant, there's plenty of talent to guide us through the development. What you have to do is develop a 5-year work plan. I've done this since 2000. We can do it internally if we have to, but it'd be nice to have some outside perspective because they can see weaknesses that you don't see in yourself, things like that. So we'll see what happens with that grant. But I would expect once we find out, we should know if we have the grant by March. That's usually when those things are daylighted, and then we could get to work fairly quickly. I mean, we'll know hopefully by March. We should be under contract by late spring, early summer. We can quickly move on bringing in a consultant because there's only a handful that really can do this type of work, and then get to work. And I would say by the end of the year, we should have a designation application into the state.
What's the size of the planning grant that you need and how much will it cost?
I think we put in for it's somewhere around $40,000, something in that ballpark. And it basically just provides the meeting facilitation. Really, the partnership is the one that are going to write this 5-year work plan. It comes from that group, but this entity will facilitate that and tease that out. There are some good ones out there. But I would hope that we have a designation application in by the fall.
The workshop that we did in December was with the 2 women from the Pennsylvania Downtown Center to help guide the strategic planning for it, and what works, what doesn't, what other communities are doing. So kind of insider information to help for that planning, which is one of the resources provided by the Main Street designation. So, or is it provided by the Pennsylvania Downtown Center for the Main Street designation?
The Pennsylvania Downtown Center is the technical assistance organization hired by the Commonwealth to do what you said.
Yeah, so we did like a day-long workshop to map all that out in December, and then I think you and Kate put together
We have I think we're very clear-eyed on the direction that we want to go. It's just really developing the narrative and going through the
What's Kate's last name? I've heard great things about her. What's her
Kate
last name?
Urban.
Kate Urban.
Yeah.
She's with the PDP downtown as well.
Yes, yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah.
She's our part-time executive.
She has a full-time job with the downtown partnership, and she's like 5 hours a week for.
More than that, but yeah.
Well, yes, she's
in theory,
paid for
5
5 hours a week, but I think she works about 100.
That's great. That's a great.
Yeah, she was on the Economic Development Council for a hot second too, for a little bit.
That's
and then-
great. Okay, fabulous. Anything else?
No, I mean, unless anybody has any questions, I know people always like to ask me about businesses and things. I mean, if anybody has any questions.
I actually have a question about this
Mhm.
form.
Yeah, just fill out, sign it.
I didn't have to do it last year when I was on Historic Preservation Board.
You should have.
Nobody ever gave me one.
Well, game on
That's why I was, curious.
No,
'cause I was
every,
like,
Got one this year.
you're technically a public
Mhm.
official and every public official has to fill it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't last year, shame on whomever, but yeah, you should have.
And income including spouse or just personal?
Just your personal.
Okay.
Like I have to declare all my offshore accounts in the Isle of Man. That's a joke. Yeah, no, just it's just, yeah, everything you say there, you see there, just fill it out. These are, we've been filling these out for, anybody, I know Anna's been involved for a long time. We've been filling these out for years.
The information that it has on this first page tells us exactly what to do.
Just,
Okay.
it's don't.
I was just curious, I was reading through the list and I know it has these, like some of the boards that are sunsetted, but it doesn't have historic preservation listed as a sunset board either. That's why I was curious about it. It wasn't listed in there.
That's, I don't know.
No problem.
We just give them hands.
They hand them to me, and then Tamara was kind enough to bring them down and bring them out, it's, we have to fill them out too, guys, so, gotta do it every year, so it's just,
Anything else on the staff liaison report?
oh, no.
Perfect. The student liaison report.
Hi,
Hi.
um,
Tell us your name and school again.
I'm Justin Metsayoda. Hi, I'm Justin. I go to Seton LaSalle Catholic High School. The only things I have are just the 1983 and 1984 Seton LaSalle girls basketball team got inducted into the Whippeal Hall of Fame. They earned the first PIAA title in any sport for Seton in the 4A class, I think that's how it's called. Seton LaSalle was named the Whippeal 2024 Food and Fund Drive Community 3A Championships with a total of 2,670 meals raised. Students continue to volunteer at Red Door Ministries in downtown Pittsburgh. They just make like lunches and food. We had a nice 2-week winter break and we just had our second Chrome from Home day in a row. Hoping we can get another one tomorrow, but and the second semester started this week. Other than that, that's really it. One of our football players, Cahill Taylor, in the class of 27, was voted as the 2A winner of the KDK Super 7 class of 2024 for football.
Nice.
That's it. So-
Nice job, Justin.
Did you come up with the Chrome from home?
Hmm?
Did you?
No, that's what Seton actually.
Oh, you should take credit for that. That's.
I
good.
will.
I don't have a school for
I came up
something.
with it. Sorry.
Chrome from home.
Oh.
No snow days, no more snow days. It's only Chrome.
So, is there any old business? Anything else that we need to discuss? Is there any new business? Ready? All right, well then the next meeting is on Wednesday, February 26th at 6 p.m. All municipal meetings will have a Zoom webinar component to enable residents to attend meetings virtually. You can also attend in this room, which is in the municipal building. If there is no further business, then can someone motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Great.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Very efficient meeting tonight. Thanks.
Good.